Hi Booklovers, welcome back to my channel. It is halfway through 2022, so I wanted to talk about all the upcoming romances, all the upcoming romance releases that are out in the second half of the year. I've compiled a giant list of them and have them ordered by month, and there were actually more than I expected there to be, so this is going to be a long list. Are all of these books also on my TBR? Not necessarily, just because I know I definitely won't be able to get to all like 60 plus books, but most of them I am actually excited about, and some of them are by popular authors that I know people read and love. Also, most of these are going to be traditionally published just because indie authors don't always put up pre-orders that far out or give release dates that far out like publishers do, but I did try to find the indies that I could. So let's just jump into it, and since there are a lot of books to talk about, I won't go too into detail for each of them. They'll all be linked down below though, and hopefully you do find some books to add to your TBR as if, you know, it wasn't long enough. Starting with July, I'm just gonna share the books that are coming out in the second half of the month, and my first one is probably the one that I am most excited about. It is Misfits Like Us by Kristen and Becca Ritchie. This is the first book in Luna and Donnelly's trilogy, though technically it is book 11 in the Like Us series, and the authors do recommend you read the series in order. It is a new couple though, so you might be able to scratch by without having read the entire series. But yeah, Luna and Donnelly have been teased throughout the series, especially in the last few books, and I'm really hoping I love them, even though I haven't really loved the last few books. Another July release is Does It Hurt by H.G. Carlton. I recently read H.G. Carlton for the first time and fell in love with her books and her writing. This is a standalone dark romance where the main characters get shipwrecked together on this stranded island. It's also got enemies to lovers vibes, or at least it sounds like the hero hates the heroine. And then there's After Hours on Milagro Street by Angelina M. Lopez. This is a new standalone from the author of the Filthy Rich series, which I loved so much. It's enemies to lovers in a small town between neighbors. He's a professor and she is a bartender. We're getting a new Serena Bowen book this month. It's called Love Lessons. It's another hockey romance. It's another Brooklyn series book. It's book number 7, and this is a lessons in seduction hockey romance. The main characters are neighbors. She agrees to help him save his image, his reputation, and he'll give her lessons in seduction. I do love the series. I love Serena Bowen's hockey romances, though I am one book behind. I still haven't read book 5, but the rest are great and I highly recommend them if you love sports romances. This next one is by an author I have yet to read, but I really want to. It's Bet on It by Jodie Slaughter. I do believe this is her first traditionally published book, though she does have a bunch of indie romances before this one. So this one is a small town romance with a bingo based sex pack. The hero is the heroine's bingo buddy's grandson. We're also getting an Elle Kennedy book this month. This is Misfit, which is the first book in her new prep series. It's been a while since Elle Kennedy released a high school romance, but she's back with a new one. I'm a little scared because it is high school and I don't really love reading them, though I have loved Elle Kennedy's like co-written one before. In this one, the hero gets sent to an all-boys boarding school and he falls for the headmaster's daughter. There are also 3 other guys mentioned, so I have no idea if this is going to end up being reverse harem. If it does, I will die happy, but I honestly don't think it will. J.C. Lee has a new book coming out as well. This is Booked on a Feeling, which is a bookstore romance. It's part of the Sweet Mess series, so it is a standalone about a different couple. It's a former childhood friends to lovers romance, and the heroine, she's a lawyer, but on her time off she somehow gets a bookstore and tries to revive it. Julie Garwood is making her comeback this month with Grace Under Fire. I did actually read an arc of this one. I sadly didn't love it, but I'm still really excited for people to read it just because it's been 5 years since her last book came out. This is the 14th book in her Buchanan Renard series, which is her contemporary romantic suspense series. It's got a slight age gap with a Navy SEAL turned lawyer hero. This one is an office romance that sounds so freaking cute. It's Circling Back to You by Julie too. I adore this cover. It's a friends to lovers office romance between office besties, and they have to pretend to fake date when they go on this business trip together to their hometown. There's a new Kate Stewart book as well. This is called Reverse, which is the sequel to Drive. I haven't read it yet, but I have been wanting to read it. It's on my TBR. The duet is called Bittersweet Symphony, and the second one is about the second generation, so like the kids from book 1. I do love rockstar romances, so I eventually want to get to these 2 books. It's been a while since I last read Rachel Van Dyken, but she does have a new book coming out with a publisher. This is The Godparent Trap. It's a contemporary contemporary romance about a popular food blogger who becomes the new guardian of her best friend's two children after her best friend passes. It's enemies to lovers between her and her co-parent, who is the children's uncle. God of Malice by Rena Ken is the start of a new adult dark romance series. It's Legacy of Gods book 1, and it's got a psychopath hero and a good girl heroine. It's enemies to lovers, it's set at college, so it sounds perfect for me, but I have struggled with this author. Her books always sound good and I want to read them. I try them, but then I don't end up loving them, but I'm really hoping I enjoy this one, at least more than her other books, because it does sound really good. Like Psychopath Hero, I'm here for it. We're getting a new Samantha Young book. This is Be With Me, which is book 4 in her Adair family series. I read the first 2 books and they were so good. They were really good romantic suspense books, and they're also set in Scotland, so I can't wait for this one. And then there's The Bodyguard by Catherine Center, which is a bodyguard romance, but it's got a female bodyguard, so the heroine is the bodyguard in this case. The hero is a superstar actor, and they pretend to fake date when they go to his hometown, so they pretend to be boyfriend girlfriend to his family because he doesn't want them to know that he has a stalker. I've read one book by Catherine Center before and I loved it, and it was women's fiction, so it was that good. I've been wanting to read her again for a while now, so this one sounds perfect. If you're a Kay Tucker fan, her second book in her fantasy romance series is coming out as well. A Curse of Blood and Stone is Fate and Flame book number 2, so it's the sequel to A Fate of Wrath and Flame. I haven't read book 1 yet, mainly because I've been waiting for the series to finish, or at least like get an idea of how many books are gonna be out. I still don't really know, but if you're curious about book 1, it's about a jewelry thief who gets transported to a fantasy world. There's a romance, a slow burn romance with a newly crowned king who believes that she killed his parents. She looks just like that traitor. For a historical romance, we are getting Always Be My Duchess by Amelie Howard. It's a historical rom-com with the fake engagement trope. There's a tagline that I saw online that called it Pretty Woman meets Bridgerton. Basically, the heroine is a ballerina who is out of work and she agrees to be the Duke Hero's fake fiance. And then the last book for July, I was actually scrolling through Goodreads trying to find all these upcoming releases, and then I saw there was a new Lauren Lane book coming out. It's called You Again. It's an office romance between a boss and employee. The heroine joins this dating app but rejects this preppy looking guy only to find out that he is, of course, her new boss. And not only that, he shows up at her best friend's wedding. Moving on to all the August books, my most anticipated August release is actually one that I've already read, but I'm still crazy excited for everyone to read it. It is Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. This is a STEM romance, another STEM romance from Ali Hazelwood about co-leads on a new NASA project. It's got enemies to lovers. She is a neuroscientist and he's an engineer. And like I said, I have read this one and it was adorable. My second most anticipated release, and this is one that I haven't read yet, it's Ruby Fever by Elena Andrews. We're finally getting a new Hidden Legacy book after so long because this book got pushed back like a year. It's book 6 in the Hidden Legacy series, though for this couple, for Catalina and Alessandro, it's their third and final book. I love this series so much. It's one of my favorite paranormal romance series, and I just can't wait for this finale. We're also getting a new Nalini Singh book. This is Storm Echo. I adore the Side Changeling series, the Side Changeling world, so I'm excited about this new one. This is book 6 in the Side Changeling Trinity series. The hero is Sai, and he's actually one of the Mercants, so he's related to Silver, and the heroine is a broken changeling and healer. They have actually met before, but she doesn't remember him, so there's like amnesia involved, but her animal, her changeling, recognizes him. For this next one, I'm not too sure I should call this a romance, but it is Pen Pal by JT Geisinger. It's a dark standalone romance, and it's also an epistolary romance. I don't think I've ever read a dark epistolary romance that I can remember. So someone from prison sends a letter to the heroine the day that she buries her husband. They write back and forth until he finally shows up at her door. The author has said herself that this is going to be a non-traditional romance with a non-traditional like happy ever after, so I'm just gonna assume that there's not gonna be one. And then my girl Kennedy Ryan also has a new book coming out. At least I'm hoping it's gonna be out in August. This is The Close-Up. It has got pushed back like 1 or 2 times, but hopefully we're getting it next month. If you know me, you know how much I love Kennedy Ryan and everything that she writes. This is a novella, part of her Hollywood Renaissance series, so like the standalone sequel-ish to Real. I love that book last year, and this one is going to be about the best friend from that book. And this novella is going to be a crossover with the Hoop series because the hero is a basketball player. He's actually the heroine's brother's teammate. The new Penny Reed is coming out. This is Folk Around and Find Out. It's another small town romance set in the same world as the Winston Brothers series. It is book 2 in the Good Folk Modern Folktale series, and this one is about Bo Winston's best friend, Hank. He's the owner of the town's club, and the heroine is a single mom of 4. Another book that I'm excited about is Half the Battle by Elle. Have I even read the series yet? No, but it's on my TBR because of how much I love Elle. This is the second book in her St. Pete Psycho series, which I really need to start soon, and I will. So it's the second book in a trilogy. Each book is releasing like a month apart, and it's a reverse harem romantic suspense series with a biker, a brother's best friend, and a psycho. We're getting a new Sarah McLean book out in August. This is Heartbreaker, which is book 2 in her Hell's Bell series. I still need to read Bombshell. I don't know why I've been putting it off. The heroine here, she is part of this feminist girl gang, and she specifically helps brides avoid the altar. She and the Duke hero go on this road trip together to stop a wedding. Another historical romance that I'm looking forward to is Aphrodite and the Duke by J.J. McAvoy. This is the author's first historical romance, and it's with a publisher. I've only read her contemporaries and her mafias, but this is going to be a second chance historical romance. As soon as I read the blurb, I was like, I really hope there's going to be a lot of groveling in this one, because for the second chance romance, the hero jilted the heroine and married someone else. This next one is a monster romance by one of my favorite monster romance authors. It's Moon-Blooded Breeding Clinic by Siemnas Costa. It's a new standalone book 3 in her Cambric Creek series, which I've been enjoying so much. We do have a werewolf hero this time, so it is a little bit more tame than the first 2 books. The heroine is human, and she wants a baby, so she goes to a breeding clinic. Also, for another series that I have not read yet, but the series is on my TBR, it's The Reckless Union by Monica Murphy, which is the 3rd and final book in her Arranged Marriage romance, which is an arranged marriage mafia romance series. I've just been waiting for the series to finish up before I start it. Like, that's how I like reading my series. I have read other books in this whole dark romance, mafia romance world. They were by different authors though, not Monica Murphy, but I did love them, so I'm excited about this one. I'm excited about this hero, and also a dark romance from Monica Murphy. I'm very, very curious about that. And then we're getting Husband Material by Alexis Hall. If you were a fan of Boyfriend Material, we're getting a sequel here. It's a continuation of Luke and Oliver's romance, and it is wedding themed. And then there's The Hookup Plan by Farrah Rashan. This is book 3 in the Boyfriend Project series. Did I love book 1? No. Will I read this newest standalone because it sounds cute? Yes. It's an enemies to lovers romance between former high school classmates who reunite at their high school reunion. She's a pediatric surgeon and he's a millionaire. This next one is an audiobook narrator romance. It is Thank You for Listening by Julia Whalen. The heroine is a former actress turned audiobook narrator, and she falls for her co-narrator on this romance book that they're both working on. I know a lot of people have been loving this next author, and I did finally read her for the first time, and I really liked her writing. It's Sarah Kate, and she does have a new book coming out in August. It's Mercy, which is book 4 in her Salacious Players Club series. The one that I read was book 1, and I'm actually really surprised she already has a new book coming out because book 3 just released back in June. But this one is an age gap forbidden romance between an older heroine and her friend's son. That son, by the way, if you read book 1 in the series, it's Emerson's son. And then this last August book is by an author that I know so many people love. It's T.L. Swan and her newest Miles High Club book, The Do-Over. I think this is supposed to be the final book because there were 4 brothers from what I remember. So this is going to be Christopher's book, but I have no idea what it's going to be about. And then for September, my most anticipated release is one that I'm sure a lot of other people are. It's The American Roommate Experiment by Elena Armas. Elena got picked up by a publisher after she blew up for The Spanish Love Deception, and now we're finally getting the best friends romance. It's a roommates romance, so obviously there's going to be a lot of forced proximity, which I can't wait for. It's going to be about Rosie and her best friend's cousin. We're also getting a new Sally Thorne book in September. This is going to be her paranormal-ish historical romance. It's Angelica Frankenstein Makes Her Match, and yes, it is Frankenstein related. It's a historical rom-com. It's about Dr. Frankenstein's younger sister who resurrects someone from the dead, and of course she ends up falling for him. For a new adult romance, we're getting Bittersweet Heart by H. Hunting, also known as Helena Hunting. It's book 2 in the Lies, Hearts, and Truth series, which is about the second generation from the Puck series. I have read book 1 and it was very, very angsty, so I'm sure we're getting more of it in the second book. It's a forbidden college romance between a hockey player and his new professor who he had a one-night stand with before school started. Julie Ann has a new duet coming out, and both books are releasing within like 2 weeks of each other, which is incredible. It's Pieces of a Life and Memories of a Life, which is the Colton and Josie duet. It's also technically books 3 and 4 in the Live series, but I have no plans to read the first 2 books because it's about something that I'm not interested in. But I am interested in this duet though, just because it's a second chance romance, which is my favorite. He's a single dad and she is a forensic pathologist. Next is Shattered Sea by Catherine Cowles. I've been enjoying her Tattered and Torn series so much this year. I read the first 2 books and I still need to read the third one, but it's coming up soon for me. This new one is the 4th book in the series, the 4th standalone, and it's about a Hollywood famous hero. It's gonna be another small town romantic suspense, pretty much like the rest of the series. September is also the month where we're starting to get some Christmas romances, because this next one, it's a Christmas romance. It's a Merry Little Meet Cute by Sierra Simone and Julie Murphy. I'm so excited about this one because it's Sierra Simone and she's publishing with Avon. The heroine here is a famous adult film star who gets cast in this very clean holiday Christmas romance movie. The hero is her new co-star and he's also a former member of a boy band, which is so intriguing. I'm dying for this book. I can't wait for it. It sounds so good, and I don't even care that it's not going to be even close to Christmas when it comes out. Denise Williams is another author that I've been enjoying lately, and she has a new book coming out in September. It's called Do You Take This Man, and it's a wedding themed romance with enemies with benefits. She is a divorce attorney who turns viral from this video. She turns into a viral wedding officiant, and the hero is a former football player turned wedding / event planner. This one is 50 Ways to Win Back Your Lover by Kelly Siskine. It's a second chance romance where the reason why the main characters broke up was because the hero and his family entered the witness protection program. He's back now in their hometown and he really wants a second chance with the heroine. So he wants to win her back, which is honestly my favorite thing to read. And then there's The Decoy Girlfriend by Lily Vale. I read the author's debut last year and I thought it was adorable, so I do want to read this new romance of hers, and it actually sounds a lot like The Stand-In by Lily Chu, which I also really liked. It's about a heroine who looks just like this famous actress and now she has to pretend to be that actress. She's standing in for her for a little while, and she also has to pretend to be with that actress's fake boyfriend. So it's got Hollywood, fake dating, and the whole fake identity. And then another book that I found while scrolling through Goodreads is a new book by Joe Arden. If you listen to romance audiobooks, you've probably heard his voice before. I love him. I love him as a narrator. But he has his own book coming out called The Chameleon Effect, and I mean, I don't know anything about it besides that it's a rom-com, but it is his first solo book, so I am very interested. Moving on to all the October releases. This first one, my most anticipated release, is one that I'm sure everyone has heard of, even if you live under a rock. Colleen Hoover is giving us the sequel to It Ends With Us called It Starts With Us. So it'll be a continuation of Lily and Atlas, and I'm really hoping we get more romance here because they really deserve it in the sequel. There's also going to be another Nalini Singh book, 2 releases in the second half of 2022 from her. This is Archangel's Resurrection, and we are all the way to book 15 in the Guild Hunter series, but we are finally getting Alexander's book and I am so freaking excited. I love him. He's one of the archangels, one of the most powerful beings in that world. He's the Archangel of Persia, and he gets a second chance romance with another archangel that we never met yet, but she does awaken. She gets resurrected basically. I just love that we're getting like an archangel romance because We haven't had that yet. Katie Roberts' second monster romance is also coming out, and it's a Kraken romance this time. It's the Kraken Sacrifice, which is the next book in the Deal with the Demon series, which is basically a series about these group of women who get auctioned off to monsters. And then we're also getting another Elle Kennedy book. This is Bad Girl Reputation, which is the standalone sequel to Good Girl Complex. It's a second chance romance between a former bad girl who runs into her ex when she returns home to her hometown for her mother's funeral, and the hero wants her back. One of the few fantasy romances that I'm looking forward to is A Curse of Queens by Amanda Boucher. It's book 4 in the Kingmaker Chronicle series, so it is the start of a new couple because the first 3 books are about a different couple. It's basically a brother's best friend fantasy romance, and the main characters have to work together to find this cure for their queen. I am very excited about this next one. It's the new Catherine Moon book. It's her newest Omegaverse romance, Faith and the Dead End Devils. Her Lola and the Millionaires duet was so good. I didn't love her other 2 romances in the Sweet Omegaverse series, but I am really excited for this one. I don't really know anything more besides that it's Omegaverse, but I'm looking forward to it. There's gonna be a new trilogy called the Madigan Mountain Trilogy by Serena Bowen, Daphne Perry, and Rebecca Yarros. I read their Hush Note trilogy and I thought they were great, so I'm excited that they're writing together again. I mean, not technically together, but they're writing a series together. The first one is A Little Too Late by Serena Bowen, which is a second chance romance. Book 2 is A Little Too Close. It's a small town single dad romance. And book 3 is A Little Too Wild by Daphne Perry, which is a sports romance with snowboarding. Next for October is King of Wrath by Anna Huang. Since the Twisted series is now over, we're getting a new series from her. It's going to be a 7-book series about the 7 deadly sins. Book 1, I'm assuming, is going to be Dante's romance, who is introduced in Twisted Lies, and he has like an arranged marriage and arranged engagement with this fiance that he has a very complicated relationship with. Next is Partners in Crime by Alicia Rai. I feel like it's been forever since Alicia Rai last released a book, but it's only been a little over a year. But she has a new South Asian romance about a match-made couple. There's also a whole romantic suspense aspect that sounds so fun because they're on the run from like kidnappers, from art thieves. Also, the cover is so pretty. And then the last October book on this list is Just Like Magic by Sarah Hogel. It's another Christmas romance on this list. The heroine, she is this broke influencer, and she somehow manages to conjure up an actual holiday spirit, like a ghost, and she ends up making him her fake fiance of all things. And then for the November releases that I'm excited for, my most anticipated one is by Kennedy Ryan, of course. It's Before I Let Go, and it's yet another second chance romance on this list. Second chance romances are just super popular this year for some reason, but I'm not mad about it. I'm dying for this one. It's the first book in her new Skyland series, and the main characters are a divorced couple, they're co-parents, and they end up falling back in love. We're also getting another Jennifer L. Armentrout at the end of the year. This is A Light in the Flame, which is the sequel to A Shadow in the Ember. I didn't love the first book, but I will still end up reading the sequel. So it's Flesh and Fire book 2. We're back with Sarah and Niktos. I still don't know how to pronounce his name. There is going to be a special Barnes & Noble edition for it. It's got a little illustration on it, and I'm very much debating whether I should get it. Another book I'm looking forward to is Astrid Parker Doesn't Fail by Ashley Herring Blake. I recently just read Delilah Green Doesn't Care, and that one was so good, so I can't wait for this one. It's the next book in the Bright Fall series. It's about the cousins romance, and it's another FF romance. The main characters are working on an inn renovation, and they do not get along. Also in October is This Woman by Jodi Ellen Malpass. I have a love-hate relationship with this author. This is a retelling in the hero's point of view of this man, and I'm adding this book onto my list because even though I hated this man, I loved the 4th book, which was the first book that she wrote in the hero's point of view. So the original was bad for me, but his point of view was good. So hopefully this one is as good as the 4th book. Also in November is Two Wrongs Make a Right by Chloe Leese. I have not read this author since her debut, which was like a weird mafia / soccer romance, but I know people love her for her Bergman Brothers series, which I we'll eventually get to. This is going to be her first traditionally published book, and it's got an opposites attract romance. The main characters end up fake dating to get revenge on their matchmaking friends. Another new author that I love this year is coming out with another book. This is Alison Cochrane. Her new romance is called Kiss Her Once. It's an FF romance and also holiday themed. It's about a woman who needs money and enters this marriage of convenience with her landlord. She pretends to be his fiance when they go home to his family, but then she meets his sister and she realizes that his sister was the one that she met a year ago and fell in love with. So it sounds like it's going to be slightly forbidden as well. And then next is Better Than Fiction by Alexa Martin. It's been a long time since I last read Alexa Martin, but this new release of hers sounds so freaking cute. The heroine is a book hater who inherits a bookstore. The hero is an author and a romantic, and he tries to show her how great reading is. And then the last November book is A Very Merry Bromance by Lisa K. Adams. I am a little bit behind on the Bromance Book Club series. I've only read the first 2 books, but she has a new Christmas themed one coming out in November. The hero is a famous country music star, and he's been asked by the heroine, who he really wants to be with, to be the face of her family's whiskey brand, and he only agrees to this if she agrees to 3 dates with him before Christmas. And then finally on to all the December romance releases. I only have 5 of them on my list, but I'm sure more will pop up when we get closer to December. But at the top of my December list is Drama King by Penny Reid, because I loved Homecoming King. That's the first book in the Three Kings series, and this is the standalone sequel. I adored that first book, and I'm so excited that we're getting Cyrus's romance. He was like the friend who was introduced. He was so sweet, but I will say I have no idea what his book is going to be about, but I'm still looking forward to it. If you're a fan of Sophie Lark, we are getting a new romance from her, this time a retelling. It's called Anastasia. I'm actually not that familiar with the story of Anastasia, but I really like when authors write retellings, romance retellings, and Anastasia is definitely not like a popular retelling to write about. It's going to be historical with magic and a princess, and it actually does sound really good. There's a new Highlander romance, historical romance, coming out in December. That sounds great. It's called Never Cross a Highlander by Lisa Rain. This one, the release date actually got pushed back a couple times. I think it might have been supposed to come out last year, but now it's the end of this year. But it's a Highlander romance, which I always love. The hero is this Highlander warrior. The heroine is trying to escape enslavement, and the two of them make their way across the Highlands together. There's a witchy romance that sounds really, really cute, and also the cover is adorable. Not gonna lie, I mainly want to read it because of this cover, but it is What You're Gonna Do by Avery Flynn. It's a witchy paranormal rom-com with a witch heroine who has no magic powers, but then she accidentally curses her family, and the only one who can help her and save her family is a guy that she hates, but also secretly wants to kiss. And then the final December romance on this list is A Dash of Salt and Pepper by Kasoko Jackson. I actually really liked his writing in I'm So Not Over You, but I just hated one of the heroes there. But hopefully I like both of them in this new standalone of his. It should help that it's a foodie romance. Both the main characters are chefs. One of them gets hired at the other's restaurant, and also the owner is a single dad. But that's about it for all the romances that are coming out in the second half of 2022. But these are the ones that actually have release days. There are still a bunch that don't have actual release dates yet, but the authors have said that they do plan on releasing them by the end of 2022, like Bewitched by Laura Thalassa. That one's a new adult fantasy romance that sounds amazing because of the anti-hero. The heroine accidentally awakens this evil being, and of course he wants her. There's Caution to the Wind by Gianna Darling. I've only read the first 3 books in the Fallen Men series, but I do eventually want to catch up. This is book 7, and it's going to be an age gap forbidden romance with the best friend's dad. And then there's also From the Grave by Kresley Cole. This is the final book in her Arcana Chronicle series, which is technically YA, but also kind of leans toward new adult the more you read. But we're supposed to get the 6th and final book sometime this summer, and we're already halfway through summer, but I have read the first 3 books and each book got better and better, so that 3rd book blew me away. I freaking loved it. I'm currently on Team Death, but that could change. Right now, I've just been waiting until this final book has a release date so I can plan out when I can binge. So those are 3 books that I know have like actual covers, and the authors have said that they plan on releasing this year. They just don't have specific release dates, but we are also probably due for a new book from like Mariana Zapata, Penelope Douglas, and Lisa Kleypas, like my top 3 authors. They haven't announced anything yet, but I can feel it. or at least I'm trying to manifest that they do. But let me know if I have missed anything on this list that you think I need to keep an eye out for. This is definitely not a comprehensive list just because I'm sure a bunch of authors, especially indie authors, are gonna announce upcoming books in the next few months, but I feel like this list is long enough already with over 60 books. As always, links to all of them will be down in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye!